We've received so much yet so little information on Bethesda's next title, Starfield, a sci-fi open-world RPG coming next year. It'll be the first trip into space and many of us are excited to be taken along for the ride. So in this video, I've rounded up the top 10, well technically 13 facts about the game that you might not know. So be sure to subscribe and like the video if this is your thing. Buckle up and let's begin. First though, the Starfield Collector's Edition watch has been leaked. It seems like the same one your character will be wearing in-game, which monitors things like moon phases, sunrises, sunsets, temperature, barometric pressure, and more. So if the Pip-Boy was iconic to you, perhaps this will be a must-have item. In multiple instances, the developers of Starfield state that it will be a large game. Bethesda says people are still playing Skyrim and we've learned from that. We spend more time building Starfield to be played for a long time. It's got some more hooks in it that we added later to a game like Skyrim, while still making sure that somebody who just wants to play it and go through the main quests and win, or feel like they've accomplished something large, is doable. So they've taken the lessons they've learned from Skyrim and applying it to Starfield. Some things that they added later were building a home, which they also added to Fallout 4 in the form of settlements. I'd be willing to bet Starfield will have something similar based off the leaked gameplay images we've seen showcasing what could be base modules. There will also be hooks to keep you playing and keep the community modding. Also, it was stated that Starfield has over 150,000 lines of dialogue. In comparison, Skyrim only had around 60,000, so that's 2.5 times more for perspective. This doesn't mean the game will be 2.5 times bigger, but dialogue is often a representation of size for games like this. Starfield will be more customizable than Skyrim and Fallout. At the outset, players will choose their character's background with many options for customization that will impact how some things in the game unfold. You'll then join the organization called Constellation. I'm guessing the background choices will play out like different pieces of dialogue rather than broad consequences gameplay-wise, similar to how it was dealt with in the Mass Effect series. Bethesda mentioned that they are really excited about what the team has done with character creation here, including backgrounds, character skills, etc. You can also pick your pronoun, he, she, and they, and they've recorded all the relevant dialogue to support that choice. Bethesda says, "We're going back to some things that we used to do in games long ago that we felt have really let players express the character they want to be. So I think when you see it being played, you would recognize it as something we have made." Overall, without seeing the example in gameplay, we can't judge, but customization seems promising so far. So I mentioned Bethesda wanted mod support to help extend the lifespan of their title. Todd Howard has confirmed that this will be the case for Starfield from the start, that the modding community has been with them for 20 years and he hopes more people will make a career out of it. So it's only a matter of time before we see Thomas the Tank Engine raining hellfire down upon us from space. Starfield will be, according to Bethesda, an epic journey to answer humanity's greatest mystery. A lot of the main storyline will seemingly focus on uncovering mysteries, like this assumed alien transport device. For some at Bethesda, Starfield is a Han Solo simulator. Get in the ship, explore the galaxy, and do fun stuff. Bethesda have large-scale goals and storytelling for Starfield, but that minute-to-minute gameplay will also be rewarding for players. They say, if you just want to pass time and go watch the sunset and pick flowers, it's rewarding in that way too. The quiet moments feel really, really good. Bethesda continue by saying, "We like to put you in a world where we're not dragging you by the nose and saying you must do X, Y, and Z, and it's okay for you to want to test the game's boundaries. You know, I can read this book. Can I pick this up? Can I do this? What if I do this? What if I do that?" And the game is saying yes a lot. So there won't just be empty planets or endless universes to explore. There will be handcrafted worlds, which is the opposite to the No Man's Sky approach, allowing for rewarding exploration. Bethesda states, if you are used to the kind of worlds that they've built before, it will be familiar to you. There are alien races as well, although Bethesda won't disclose how they tie into the game's realistic grounding. Todd Howard says, "There is a way we approach it, I will say that." Okay, we've seen a few alien concepts in concept art, but nothing that seems intelligent just yet. The game is set about 300 years plus in our own future, and Constellation is this kind of last group of space explorers. It's like NASA meets Indiana Jones meets League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's a group of people that are still searching for answers. Under all of this will be a Bethesda game. When you think of Bethesda games, you think of bugs, but there's obviously a lot more to it than that. For example, Todd has explained that there will be 2 step-out moments in the game, similar to how Fallout has you stepping out of the vault and Skyrim out of the cave. Starfield is said to be like Skyrim in terms of structure of the game, where you're going to be who you want to be, and then there's different factions that you can join and really carve out your own path. So imagine stepping out of your spaceship for the first time onto an alien world, and later on joining the companions and becoming the leader of the Thieves Guild. It won't play out like that, but we can expect a similar feel. Starfield will also be first and third person, although first person for Bethesda is the prime way of playing. So you can see the world and touch all of those things. Todd says that the mechanics are different, but some things are still the same, like being able to touch everything, watch the sunset and rise, just sitting there and watching the world go by. Skyrim has deep fantasy, Fallout has rads and quirky sci-fi tech. What does Starfield have? Bethesda has dubbed the look of the game NASA Punk. They go on to say, it's a game, but it still has an authenticity. Okay, this could happen. So we talked about what kind of fuel do the ships use. We're using helium-3, which we can debate whether that's a good power source for spaceships, or how do the physics work in space, gravity and those kinds of things. We have to gamify it some, so it's not as punishing as actual space travel. So if you look at the ship, you can probably design something much sleeker in 300 years in the future, right? But this has touchstones back to the current space program. So in your mind, you can draw this line between them. Like there are various guns the player has and other weapons and things like that, but the more exotic ones feel exotic in the reality of the game versus not. Todd has even taken a visit to SpaceX and talked to NASA scientists in order to get inspiration and help on Starfield. The inspiration can be seen in all the concept art. As of right now, we have very little information in terms of companions, but as this is a Bethesda game, we can assume we'll at least have some. Bethesda states, to help in the journey, there are a variety of robots. While there is nothing like Star Wars C-3PO, Howard said that there is one named Vasco, a nod to the explorer Vasco da Gama, who is told off via a crew member's wall writing in the trailer because the robot forgot to procure a beverage called Tranquility. The name is yet another nod to NASA. Tranquility Base was the moon site on which the Apollo 11 astronauts first landed and walked. So these robots may be used like Lydia to carry your burdens, or even autonomously send out to the world to gather or explore. We'll have to see. Also, if they'll be human or sentient companions is yet to be confirmed. Starfield is set in a relatively small pocket of the Milky Way in an area that extends outward from our solar system approximately 50 light years. 50 light years is a massive amount of time for us, as even if we could travel at the speed of light, it would obviously take a generation to reach the end. However, in the scale of the galaxy, 50 light years is tiny, and if that's tiny, then don't worry boys, everything's tiny. Tiny as it may be, we would need some way to travel quickly between areas. Here is where I think this device concepted may very well be an alien transportation device that you discover early on. So how populated is this 50 light year area? Well, sparsely. However, around 20 years before the start of the game, the 2 largest factions in the settled systems, the United Colonies and the Free Star Collective, had engaged in the Bloody Colony War. Today, the major factions enjoy an uneasy peace, but the settled systems is still pretty dangerous. There are plenty of human threats out there like the Ecliptic Mercenaries, the Pirates of the Crimson Fleet, the Violent Spacers, or even the fanatical religious zealots of House Varun. The concept art shows multiple cities and settlements. Constellation is committed to uncovering the mysteries of the galaxy, and you, as one of its newest members, will explore the deepest reaches of the settled systems. There are a lot of factions in the game, but that's the main one you'll be a part of. Like mentioned, the game is Skyrim in terms of the structure. There's different factions you can join, and you can choose to ally with them or not ally with them at all. However, in Skyrim, you were always a Dragonborn, and in Starfield, you'll always be an explorer. So Skyrim's success has influenced a lot of things, but don't expect the game to look like Skyrim as well. Bethesda says, "We have a lot more people doing engine work now, probably more than we ever had. So the overhaul in the engine is the largest we've probably ever had made, maybe larger than Morrowind to Oblivion. There are things that we do that we still like, the way we build our world, the way people mod it. These are things I think that are fundamentally good about our tech stack. But from rendering to animation to pathfinding to procedural generation, I don't want to say everything. It's a significant overhaul, taken us longer than we would have liked. When people will see the results, they'll be as happy as we are with what's on the screen, but also in how we can go about making our games." We know you'll be flying around in your spaceship and you'll run into pirates, but will there be space combat? If you pause at the right time during the trailer, you can see gauges for weapons, shields, and boosts on the screen. Bethesda mentioned roughly that your ship's controls, gauges, and buttons all have a purpose, so this could suggest combat in your spacecraft. We know there'll be on-foot combat as we've seen weapons in trailers and art. Starfield will have weapons and lasers and different planets to explore, and not everything will be beholden to the rules of physics. Bethesda says, yes, we have lasers in a vacuum, and there is sound in a vacuum as well. They go on to say, well, the main thing is, when you're doing a game, it's good to have some conceit you can use for giving the player power beyond equipment. Or you have equipment and items that you want to have some sort of power. Howard explains, it's much easier in a fantasy game, right? Magic. Fallout has radiation and crazy tech, so in your mind, you can draw this line between them. Like there are various guns the player has and other weapons and things like that, but the more exotic ones feel exotic in the reality of the game versus not. So expect some exotic sci-fi weaponry in Starfield, or maybe even some conceit we can't imagine right now. So those are the top 13 facts we know so far about Starfield. What do you think? Are you excited for the game? Let me know below. Like always, do the standard YouTube stuff, it really helps out. For everything Starfield and RPG, keep your eyes peeled to /Dantix. Ciao friends.